Hey guys, what is up? Time for part two. Welcome back. Let's get started. Let's make this ball bounce around. So at the end of the last video, we managed to draw the ball, and now we're interested in actually updating its position. So how are we going to do that? Well, first thing I want to do is get rid of all of this junk up here, because that was just sort of a proof of concept testing thing. And essentially, what's really handy is that all this stuff down here, it's really one big block of do something, right? I mean, essentially this whole thing here just redraws the contents of this LCD for us. It takes the state and uses it to redraw the ball. So all we're going to do is encapsulate it and rename this redraw. And this is actually really handy because now we can just bang on this button and it will automatically update this LCD to reflect the state of the ball as it bounces around. So for example, that did not do what I wanted it to do. When we change the size of this LCD, we're going to want to redraw so that the ball appears where we want it to appear. So we're going to pass the position, the dimensions of this LCD as a list to this update width height thing, and then bang on this button to actually do our redrawing. So now you'll see as we change the size of this thing, the ball remains at the same position relative to the entire thing, which is exactly what we wanted, which is sweet. So now actually, as for actually updating the position of this thing, we have a little bit more work to do, but it's not so bad. Basically what we're going to do is bang a button that's going to add the velocity to the position and then update the position of the ball. So the way we do that is by first grabbing this yet another dict ball state, or in this case state, and we're going to extract the position, velocity, and the number of rows and columns and use that to figure out where our ball should be. So you guessed it, we're going to use dict.unpack, and we're going to need the position, the velocity, and the number of columns, because we're dealing with the x-coordinate for now. And when we get that passed in here, what we're going to do is first add the position to the velocity, and then we're going to check, would that have made our ball go off the right side or off the left side? If it did, then instead of adding the velocity, we're going to flip the velocity and add its negative. And that way, we'll make the ball bounce. So what does that look like? So first thing we're going to need to do is unpack the velocity, or rather the position, into its x and y. Then we're going to first add that position to the velocity once to check if it would have made us go outside our bounds. The velocity, like the position, is broken down into x and y components. So we're going to take the velocity in the x direction and add it to the position in the x direction. And then we're going to make sure, we're going to check using split if that's between 0 and the number of columns. And we already have the number of columns over here. If it's inside the range, then we use the actual value of the velocity. And if it's outside the range, then we flip the velocity. Trigger integer because we first want to populate this multiplication box with the velocity and then do the multiplication down here. This looks a little bit sloppy. How do I fix this up? Maybe Y. Control Shift Y. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Cool. That was Command Shift Y in case you wanted to know what the keyboard shortcut was that I got to make it do that. So hopefully the logic of this is pretty clear. All we're doing is, once again with feeling, we're taking the velocity and putting it down. First thing to do is take the velocity, put it down in this number box here. Then we take the velocity and add it to the position. If that would have gone past the number of columns, actually this should be -1. If that would have gone past the number of columns, or if it would have gone less than 0, so off the left side of this LCD, then we flip the velocity by multiplying by -1. Otherwise, we multiply by 1 and the velocity stays the same. Either way, we're going to do set velocity. Prepend set velocity. No, we'll do pack. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to. Don't worry about it. We'll do pack I1 or pack I0, pack I1, and then so you got to move all this up so we can actually see. And then prepend set velocity. And this will set the velocity add another ball state down here, and that will set the velocity. And we'll also add the velocity that we actually end up using to the position and do pack I0 and then prepend set position. Okay, cool. Hopefully all the logic here makes sense. It should be pretty straightforward. God, I love these curved patch cords. It is a beautiful thing. Cool, and that should actually take care of all the logic of making our ball bounce around. So now, every time we bang on this button, if we first bang on this button, trigger bang bang, first bang on this guy, this button, and then hit our redraw, we should, fingers crossed, see this button bouncing back and forth. Let's see what happens. Yes, look at that. Oh my god, I cannot believe it. That is the sexiest thing. Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's that. That's done. So, that was for columns and now that was for the columns in the x direction, and now we're worried about the y direction. So let's take all of this, duplicate it, move it over here, also pass the dictionary in here, and here we're setting the y coordinate of the velocity and the y coordinate of the position. Undo these dummy values, and let's see, position, velocity, and rows, not columns, rows. Sorry I'm going fast here, but we don't have a lot of time, and I want to get to making sounds. Sweet, that's all that. Great. Sweet, so now if I make a Metro 50 and trigger bang bang, and first thing I do is bang on this thing that updates the position, not upstate, but update, and then hits this redraw, we should be able to see this ball bouncing around all on its own. Let's see if it works. Oh my life, amazing. Look at that. Oh, so cool. All right, fantastic. Well, we're in the home stretch. Now all we have to do is add a little something to detect when we hit a wall. So the way we're going to do that is simply this. Every time the velocity changes sign, we're going to report it. So here's our change, and here's another change here. So we have the change in x and the change in y. And a bang. No, sorry, we don't even need to worry about every time, forget change. Every time we end up flipping the velocity, we just want to know about it. So I'll connect this -1 to a button, and then this is going to be satisfying. We can take this entire big chunk of patch, this whole silly thing here, and hit encapsulate, and rename that update. And that's it. That whole part is done. And now a quick little bit of cleanup, just grabbing all this, moving it over here, moving these buttons up here. Isn't watching me move things around in a patch exciting? I know this was such an exciting tutorial. Update down here, and sweet. Look at that progress. Okay, cool. Look at that ball bouncing around. We get a bang every time we hit one of the walls. Ah, so cool. Okay, how much time do we have? Oh, okay, we have time. All right, so now we want this thing to make a sound every time it hits one of the walls. So when we hit the X, when we hit either this left wall or the right wall, I want to know how high up or down it's hitting the wall. So to do that, I just, you guessed it, copy dict ball state, bang on that dictionary, oops, and I can actually send a get position message straight into this dictionary and not have to use a dict.unpack. Just another way to get the same sort of thing out of it. I can root the position here, and then I'm interested in the y coordinate of the position. I can add some offset to that. and then send that to a make note, say 127 or 120 for, I don't know, 500. And then to a note out. And then can you set, well, anyway, load mess 10, because I want it to go out on the 10th channel, because the ALU, the AU-DLS synth channel 10 is all drums, so this should be a drum, which will be cool. Okay, cool. So now every time it hits the wall in the X direction, we should hear some drum sound. Or not. Why? AU-DLS synth. Is anything coming out of here? Let's see. No, why not? Oh, of course, I've hooked up the wrong thing here. This should be here. Now, is this right? No. Is anything coming out of here? Yes. Is anything coming out of here? Ah, of course, this should have an unpack. Delete, unpack, integer. And we'll send the Y coordinate out here. Now we should hear sound, but we don't. It's very quiet for a patch that should be working. 496. Ah, of course, because... Yes! Listen to that shit. Oh my god, so cool. Let's stop that racket, and then I want to do the same thing, but for Y, rather when it hits the other walls. So let's grab all of this, move over for a second. Grab all of this, move it over here, bang on this load mess, duplicate this guy, instead work with the X coordinate, send that over, oops, send this over here, and now we can encapsulate all of this. And because of things, we have to come back in here and double click on these load messes again, but that's okay. 36 and 36. And let's call this drums, or drumks, I guess. Bring this LCD back over, and then let's go. So now the fun thing to do is play around with the width and height of this thing, the number of rows and number of columns. So all we need to do is add in something over here. We'll clean this up a bit, move this, let's see, move these guys over to, I don't know, here, move this down and away, move this over, and now we've seen another dickball state, and we'll have an integer for the number of rows and number of columns, and anytime either one of these changes, we'll just do the message that's set position 0, 0, so it starts at position 0, 0. Otherwise, it could go off the edge and we'd be in a mess. So first, we'll set the position to be 0, 0, and then this one, prepend set columns, and this one prepend set rows. First do this, then do this. I guess the order doesn't really matter. These go in here, these go in here. And then encapsulate this. Row call. Cool. And now set this to, I don't know, 8, and this to 10. Go. Yeah, so interesting stuff. Really interesting. Huh. So anyway, yeah, that's basically it. This is the first sort of whole segment on dict that I wanted to do. I'll show you in a few later tutorials how to add more balls, how to add weird obstacles, how to add effects, colors, and all that stuff. But for now, yeah, that's basically the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're as excited by the dict object as I am, by all the cool new features in Max 6. I'll be trying to get to as many of them as I can, including the gen objects, which are a whole nother stratum, another layer, the cumulonimbus of cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Yeah, goodbye, West Coast.